senators, and representatives, I have the distinguished honor of presenting.
The late 19th and early 20th centuries were a transformative period for the United States as the nation shifted from a policy of isolationism to one of expansionism. Nowhere was this more evident than in Latin America, where the U.S. pursued its interests through political, economic, and military strategies. From Roosevelt's big stick diplomacy to Wilson's moral diplomacy, let's explore the key events and policies that define this era of American influence. American expansionism in Latin America was rooted in the Monroe Doctrine, which declared the Western Hemisphere off-limits to European colonization. By the late 19th century, this policy evolved to justify U.S. interventions in the region. Naval strategist Alfred Thayer Mahan argued that a strong navy and overseas bases were critical for national power. This philosophy guided U.S. actions in Latin America. One of the most significant examples of big stick diplomacy was the construction of the Panama Canal. After supporting Panama's independence from Colombia in 1903, the U.S. gained control of the canal zone. Completed in 1914, the canal became a vital link for global trade and military strategy. The Roosevelt Corollary to the Monroe Doctrine asserted that the U.S. had the right to intervene in Latin American countries to maintain stability and protect American interests. This policy justified numerous interventions, including in the Dominican Republic and Cuba. President William Howard Taft emphasized economic power over military force, using dollar diplomacy to promote U.S. investments in Latin America. By encouraging American businesses to invest in countries like Nicaragua and Honduras, the U.S. sought to stabilize economies while securing its own economic interests. Critics argued that this policy prioritized corporate profits over the well-being of local populations, fostering resentment in the region. Woodrow Wilson's moral diplomacy aimed to promote democratic values and human rights in Latin America. Wilson believed the U.S. had a moral obligation to support nations striving for self-governance. Despite its idealistic goals, Wilson's policy often led to military interventions, such as in Mexico during its revolution. The U.S. occupation of Veracruz in 1914 heightened tensions and demonstrated the challenges of balancing moral ideals with strategic interests. U.S. expansionism strengthened its economic and military presence in Latin America. The Panama Canal, for instance, boosted global trade and cemented America's dominance in the region. However, these policies often undermined sovereignty and fueled anti-American sentiment. Many Latin American countries viewed U.S. interventions as a form of imperialism. In the 1930s, the U.S. adopted the Good Neighbor policy under Franklin D. Roosevelt, signaling a shift away from direct interventions toward more cooperative relations. American expansionism in Latin America during the late 19th and early 20th centuries was a complex mix of ambition, ideology, and strategy. While policies like big stick diplomacy, dollar diplomacy, and moral diplomacy advanced U.S. interests, they also left a lasting impact on the region, shaping economies, politics, and relationships for decades to come. This era reminds us of the power and responsibility that come with influence on the global stage.